Minister Malusi Gigaba just delivered Budget 2018. With us in studio to unpack Budget 2018, we have Renette Taljaard, who is the Director of Economic Research Southern Africa. Welcome, Renette.
Thank you.
Renette, what did you take out of Budget 2018?
I think the theme that is still there consistently is that the fiscal pressure is still there, not surprisingly. So we see that some of the revenue projections now stand at about a gap of 48.2 billion, not the 50 billion anymore, but that's not a dramatic shift. We see a persistently improved growth rate, but still low. So the projection at 2.1 by 2020 is a fairly depressed growth rate in the broader regional context.
Are we happy that it's improved from what it was, but still a little bit cautious and slightly pessimistic that it is still low?
It is still low, and if we consider the scope and the scale of the challenge our country confronts on poverty and inequality, the growth rate, if it doesn't reach much higher than 2%, is not going to be sufficient to make a material change or a material impact. So even though it is better, it's somewhat better in a global context that is increasingly looking more robust internationally on growth, despite the recent instability in the stock markets. So I think that there's concern that our growth rate really should improve even more, and that we need to really dramatically engage in confidence building measures. Some of those confidence building measures were present in the State of the Nation address on Friday. Some of them are picked up thematically in the budget, the Jobs Summit, issues around state-owned entities. So we'll see how that pans out.
What are your thoughts on the budget and state-owned entities?
I am pleasantly surprised by the acknowledgement that not everything can happen on the balance sheet of these entities, and that there will be a significant openness to equity participation and various forms of private sector capital participation in these entities. I think it's a long overdue discussion. It's a discussion that already started many years ago when Minister Jeff Radebe was Minister of Public Enterprises, and he had a document called an Accelerated Agenda for Restructuring of State-Owned Enterprises. So it's interesting that we keep circling back into this direction, but now in an environment where the pressure on the balance sheets of these entities has really come to bear.
Tax, what are your thoughts on tax in the budget?
Unsurprisingly, an increase in the VAT rate. No dramatic changes on personal income tax or indeed corporate tax, which is perhaps to be expected given the fairly high rates of both. The interesting feature here is also the increase in estate duty for estates in excess of 30 million rand. Yeah. And even more substantively, the further detail of how government intends to engage with the Davis Tax Committee's recommendations in this year, particularly also in the context of the investigation in SARS that was announced on Friday evening by the new state president, and particularly the powers of the minister vis-a-vis the commissioner, the role of the ombud, the variety of interventions and proposals made by the Davis Committee clearly on the agenda. What is a pleasant surprise is the very aggressive projection to ensure that the deficit tapers back down to 3.5%. That's a welcome aggressive move to show substantive commitment to lowering the deficit. The debt servicing costs are still a concern.
And to wrap it up, what do you think Moody's and the ratings agencies, the other ratings agencies, will take away from Budget 2018?
It's a very difficult call. It is clearly the only call that's going to matter, is Moody's opinion on the budget. As you know from last year during the MT-BPS period, we dodged a significant bullet when we didn't get downgraded to junk status by Moody's. It will be the only reaction that matters. Whether we have dramatically done enough already in a very small, short scope of time, we'll have to see.
But we'll hope for the best.
We are South Africans and we have to both vote for the best and hope for the best. But clearly, the ratings agencies are going to make a decision one way or the other.
Thank you so much, Renette. We'll have you back soon.
Thank you.